And thank you everyone for joining us today. So my name is David. We are having our Adobe Creative Campus webinar, really focused on Premiere Rush and making videos on the go. I'm very pleased to have Eric Rowse from Senior Solutions Consultant from Adobe joining us today to help lead this webinar. So a little bit about our goal. We really want you to enhance your course videos and your content. Let's think about what course videos do you currently have on Blackboard? How can we enhance them and make them more dynamic for your students to really improve student learning outcomes? So some of the tips and some of the lessons that you'll learn today include how to import videos that you've already created into Premiere Rush, also how to add titles and cleaning up that sound so it's really clear for both you and your students to hear. At the end, we'll have some next steps and also time for Q&A. If you do have any questions at any time throughout this webinar today, feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat box. You can also just unmute and say your question out loud. So before we get started and before I hand off the reins to Eric, I do want to show everyone here how to access the Creative Cloud on campus here with UDC. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and you'll see my web browser in just a second. So the way that you do access this, and I'll put this in the chat box, please go to creativecloud.adobe.com. So I'll go ahead and type that in. And you'll see a sign-in screen just like you see right here. And use your UDC information for that Microsoft single sign-on access. Excellent, so it's popped up now. So my information, david.cerna@udc.edu. I'll go ahead and click on continue. And you'll see a prompt right here where it says company or school account. Once you click on that, that'll take you directly to this homepage. And once this loads, what we're working on today is Premiere Rush. So I'll go ahead and scroll down. And you'll see some options here for Premiere Pro and Premiere Rush. We are focusing on Premiere Rush today. So I've already installed that. If you haven't had it installed, you'll see a little prompt. You can just download that for your computer. So that's the first way to access the Creative Cloud. And like Fatma said in the chat box, you can also access this through books and tools. So if you are in your Blackboard, if you're on Blackboard, go to the left side and where it says books and tools, click on view course and institution tools. And on the right-hand side, you should see where it says Adobe Creative Cloud. Once you click on that and click on the plus sign right here, that'll add a direct link to the Adobe Creative Cloud, or you can access this directly from Blackboard. So I'll go ahead and find that. So right here, once I click on that, it'll look the same as that web browser. So once this loads, there you go. And you'll see right here, it says Adobe Premiere Rush. I can go ahead and click on install. And that's already installed for me. If you haven't installed it yet, just click on that install button right there. And last but not least, there is a third way to access this. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep, showing up good.
Okay, thank you, Eric. So in the lower left corner, if you have a UDC issued laptop, if I click on the left-hand side where it says start, and then go to Software Center. So if you don't see it up here, you can also search for it. Once I click on Software Center, and let me go ahead and share my whole screen. Give me a second. I'll do that one more time. So I go to the Start menu for Microsoft and click on Software Center. In the Software Center, you'll see this little icon. It says Creative Cloud. So that's where you can install the Creative Cloud on a UDC issued laptop. Are there any questions I can answer for how to access the Creative Cloud? Okay, excellent. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Eric. And thank you so much, Eric.
Start my video screen there. Hopefully not quite. Camera, come on, camera.
There you go. You're in the mountains today, Eric.
Hey, how about that?
Awesome.
A little bit of,
I love that.
A little bit of nice background from a previous motorcycle trip. So it's fun to
it's
play
getting
around.
hot here, so that's perfect. It's getting
yes,
hot here.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric.
Let me share my screen and we'll get started. So while I'm getting through that, The thing about Rush that I'm a huge fan of is it allows you to get out in the world. So hopefully y'all can be seeing my browser right now. This
Yep.
is actually a very good use case what Rush is used for today. Just people taking their mobile devices and going out in the world and shooting footage. No fear, no intimidation. Maybe I'll do something on cooking. Maybe I'll do something on exercise. Maybe I'll do something on sports or media or influencing, or as David was saying earlier, how I can roll into my coursework. I find video is such a common way of self-expression for students because it takes away that intimidation of, I know what I want to say, but I have a hard time saying it. So people have a more natural current tendency to reach for their phone and say, oh, great, let me make a video. This is exactly what Rush has been initially built for, I would say. The thing that I think the most that's intriguing is I'm going to hold my phone up here. Rush was designed from the very ground up to be mobile friendly first. Everything I'm going to show you today, going to be focusing a little bit on the mobile to say how can I use my mobile to cut and capture, but I'm going to switch to my desktop to reinforce the point. Doesn't matter which platform you're using, mobile, tablet, or desktop, a Rush project can be interacted with in all three of those worlds, and the button feature functionality will be spot on precisely the same, which is why I'm a huge fan of this tool. In fact, let me switch over to my phone. So this is my phone background. I am a Star Wars fan, and I'm going to scroll over to my Rush application because you can download it from your Apple store and you'd use the same school credentials that David was talking about in order to log into Rush. I've already got a couple projects already made that are sitting on this phone, but really like most things in the world of Adobe, how do I start something new? I hit the plus sign at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to click that plus sign. It's going to ask me a question. Do I want to add media, or do I want to use my phone as a capture device and take that captured content and drop it into Rush? So if you already had media, as David was saying, maybe that media was living on your phone, you would hit the add media button and log into or click into your mobile where you kept all your footage, or you can use your phone as an actual capture device. So I'm going to use the second part, and I can show you a little bit more about the adding from another area in a little bit, but not to underestimate, Rush is a very good capture mechanism. So I'm going to click on take photo or video. Welcome to my office. This is where I spend lots of my day working with folks like yourself. So I can just turn this sideways if I want to have 16:9 or vertical. Either way is fine with me, but you can see a lot of capture options at the bottom of the interface where I can look at my exposure. I'm just tapping buttons now. So that's my exposure. That's the bias. Do I want to white balance? Do I want to do any kind of auto focusing, or do I want to zoom in? All that can be done natively with the Rush app. So I don't want you to feel like you have to go to another app to capture source footage. You can capture right inside Rush if you really wanted to. So I'm going to go back and just hit the red button there. And so now we're recording live input of my wonderful environment that I see every day, and then I can hit stop. And you will see a one with a check mark above it that says, I have captured one piece of media. I could continue on capturing and capturing and capturing, much like that website I was showing when I started. The idea is I'm out in the world with my mobile device capturing footage, whether I want to do it handheld or drop it inside a clamp sitting on top of a tripod. It's very easy to do. I can even take stills by hitting the still camera icon, and then that can be added. As you saw, there's my number 2. So if you want to take stills with Rush, great, you can add them in. If you want to capture video with Rush, great, you can do that too. I can even click it on auto top right corner, and that takes away some of the complexity to say, you know what, I just want to shoot my footage. You can do that too. So you can bounce between, well, I do know something about the camera and the exposure. I can set that up. Or you know what, just let me start recording footage. Like I want to stick my phone on my handlebars in a clamp and go right around. Maybe that could be part of my story that I'm trying to tell. Because as I said when we met previously, this is about telling stories. I got this concept in my head, my narrative, and I'm going to use video as the expression device to share my story. When I am done with capturing, I just click on that check mark at the bottom right corner of the screen, and it says, Rush would like to have access to your photos. Yes. Keep the current selection. And now what you see on screen is, there is my footage, and there is my still. How do I know I have footage? Well, the footage has the video wave, the audio waveforms at the bottom. You can just tap on it. And I have a still because it has no associated audio with it, because it's just a still image. But not to go into too much depth on this, because again, I will reinforce this when we are working on the desktop. I have some key buttons at the bottom of the interface I just want to make you aware of before we make the transition. I have a plus button that says I wish to add more content. I have a box or a bin, that's my media bin, that's showing me my movie file and my JPEG of my still. And I could just look at what I have collected. Maybe I have additional photos I wish to add, but the bin says what's currently in my project. I'm going to close out of that. I now have the multi-track option. This is why, so again, truly love this application. This is not linear single track recording. I get 4 tracks of video and 4 tracks of audio to mix, move, adjust, shift, and so on my mobile device or desktop if I choose to use that. And I also have the option of, at the very bottom of the screen, you should be able to see, well, I know maybe I started in an aspect ratio, but do I wish to convert my project mid-project to be another aspect ratio? You have the means of doing that as well too, to bounce between 16:9, 9:16, 4:5, or Instagram square. And as you can see, the footage now changes as I'm just scrubbing back and forth. That blue line represents what's seen on camera, and this is my thumb just moving the playhead back and forth. There are other options across the bottom of the page where I can add graphics, as in true motion graphic templates, like the crawl that you would see at the bottom of ESPN or CNN, or when you have an interview with somebody on camera, you'll get that little thing that pops up in the bottom right corner of name and job role, and then that fades out. That's what those graphics are. I have effects in which I can click on this, where I can use transitions to say I want to have a dissolve or fade between my footage. I have color, so if I wish to make color adjustments, let's say I have a cloudy day when I'm out shooting, but I want it to look brighter, I could come in and change some of my color adjustments. I can make my footage faster or slower, so I don't have to feel like, oh, I need a fancy 4K or 8 red camera if I want to shoot super slow-mo. I can kind of incorporate that change by adjusting my clip speed, as well as audio feature functionalities, how I can make audio take, spoken audio take more of a preference versus background track music, as well as transformation. If I want to change the squash or scale of this, or do one kind of the floating pictures that move across the screen, like you saw with a lot of those. I cannot remember the videographer that started that whole trend. Oh, it's killing me. But he started with baseball and jazz, and he had all sorts of still images that he would move across the screen.
Ken Burns, right?
Thank you, Ken Burns.
There you go.
Kicking me. It was in my head. Thanks for the save, David.
You
So
got
very
it.
much that transformation will allow me to do the Ken Burns effect if I want to move still images across the screen. So we've seen a fair amount of icons on the mobile device, as well as some other ones, like I want to cut my clip in half, I want to delete it, I want to duplicate it. I'm going to flip to the desktop mode to say, you know what, everything that we just did on mobile can be easily replicated on desktop too. But the whole point of this was, if you wish to, Rush can be a mobile first application, and you can feel confident in using this device to capture, edit, and record, and even render on mobile. So you don't need to have some fire-eating kind of laptop machine to feel like, oh, if I'm doing video, I got to go get the best of the best chipset. Not really. That footage of the mountain that you might be seeing behind me, that was part of a motorcycle trip I took in 2019. I was editing my trip footage of my motorcycle GoPro on my iPad when I was flying home. This trip happened to take me into a bunch of different European countries. So very much Rush is meant for that on the go kind of mindset. Yes, very much it's an iPad friendly kind of application as opposed to other different types of phones. So let me change gears. Let me shift us over to Rush itself, my mobile device, and we'll look at a screen that was very similar to what we saw on the phone. It's asking us, you've got some projects already made, or do you want to create a new project? That's why I have a friendly blue button here. I'm going to say, great, I want to create a new project. Now, this just happened to be showing me a lot of different places where I can go get footage. Don't be intimidated by this particular screen. It's saying, if you wish, you can click on things either from your desktop or from movies you have already taken. But the thing that I like about Rush is, and if you're playing along with me at home too, you can click on sample media, where my mouse is parked here on the left side. So we'll all be working with the same footage if you want to kind of have that familiarity. So I'm going to click on sample media, but really this screen that you're seeing right now is saying, please go find footage that you wish to assemble and turn into a narrative inside Rush. That's what we're looking at, stills, audio, or video. In this case, I'm going to click on sample media. So if you want, we can all use the same footage. This is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to click these in a sequence that says, you know what, I think I want this clip to go first. I want this clip to be second. I want this clip to be third. And please give me an audio track as well. Now it shows me in the bottom left-hand corner, okay, well, here's your footage and the audio track called Dreamland. You also notice a square called Sync with Creative Cloud. That would be the mechanism that if I did start a project on my mobile device, that would facilitate me to put down my mobile, log into my desktop, and then my project would have taken the trip from mobile to cloud, turned down cloud back to my desktop. That's why it's there. So kind of a tip or trick for you. If you're recording footage out in the field, don't turn on Sync with Creative Cloud. You can always turn it on later. So don't make you think it's like, oh, one-time deal. No, if you're going to use Rush in the field, capture with your mobile if you wish to. And then when you have all your clips ready to go, then you can turn on Sync with Creative Cloud, because I don't want you to be burning precious bandwidth being out somewhere in low bandwidth, trying to pull on a 3G or 4G signal to push video footage up, over, and down. I'm a practical person, so it's always good to be in the zone of good Wi-Fi bandwidth or hardline when you're working on projects. But at least so you understand, that's why it's down there in the bottom left-hand corner. That's the role it occupies. I could make any project that I have cloud syncing, which will allow me to pick up any device and keep on moving forward with it. So in this case, I've got my footage selected. I'm going to hit create. It's preparing my media, and it's going to show me a timeline just a little bit more widely spaced as opposed to what we had seen on the phone, but the logic is still the same. Remember these tools that we saw at the bottom center of my screen on my phone? Well, here they are in the top right-hand side. Why are they there? I got more screen real estate. Here are the tools that we'd seen on the phone that are now on the left-hand side. That's how I duplicate a clip. That's how I can trash a clip. That's how I can make my controlling tracks, that kind of multi-track environment by tap. And now I'm seeing my multiple audio and multiple video. I can even click on a piece of footage and make it easier to see the waveform by choosing this icon called Expand Audio. So now I have a better sense of, there's my audio, which could act as a means for me to trim or edit my content, because maybe I need to see the audio pops and peaks and valleys, so it's more efficient. So the interface is spot on the same. I do have some locks and icons that say, well, I want to lock a track so I don't accidentally try to select something. Why do I say that? Because it's very easy to put content in other tracks. In fact, I'm going to go get a still image. I'm going to click on this plus sign, top left corner, to get media, and it says, do I want to add a graphic or audio? Well, we'll get to that. You can also do voiceovers in this. And I'm a big fan of being able to use this as a presentation mechanism. So some people like to record, edit, and get their video set, and then watch the video and grab their microphone. Or some people like to read the script first and then try to edit their footage to the script. Dealer's choice, but that's why that voiceover button's there. You can record voiceovers without having to go to another application by staying inside Rush. So I can go to your media, and now it's going to say, okay, well, here's the media files, but I want to pick from another area. So I'm going to go from sample media to the media browser. The browser is what I'd shown you when I first started this project. It opens up access to all my other locations. So if you have something on your hard drive, you can go get it. If you have something in your Creative Cloud content, you can go get it. If you have audio, you can go get that too. Now, audio does come with Rush. There are maybe a couple hundred royalty-free tracks that ship with the application that are, we will not sue you into the next 5 future generations. But if this is a video project that's never going to leave the environment, quote, environment, and if you wish to add some kind of pop music to it, music you don't own, you do have that ability. But when things get shared, things can get overshared. So I would just counsel you with, please use caution when you decide to make that change, to say, you know what, I'm going to use a song by Billy Idol because I think it's a cool song. And when you share that with somebody, you don't know what they're going to do with it. But it's a great question, Dr. Brown. You can import current audio files that you have on your hard drive. So as I said, I was going to go get a still. So let's see, what do I have sitting on my desktop? Great. Well, this was from May the 4th. I was very much in my flight suit regalia, giving a seminar. But did you notice what it did? It threw it onto my current track with my video footage. I don't want it there. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag it up one track. So now that video is no longer being split as if I jammed something in the middle. It's being used as my video is now a continuous piece. But do you notice how it snapped right to the still and then went back to the video? It's called stacking order. The highest element in the project will be the thing that is closest to the quote camera. So if you have still images that are above your video, the still will cover the video. Now, can I transform this image by clicking on it and making it smaller? Sure. I can squeeze, squash, and stretch. I can make it less opaque. So the snapping very much is a handy feature. It's always going to maintain its present. I think you'll see a little bit more logic on the snapping coming up. I just saw that question pop up in the chat. I'm getting to that. But I do like this ability to be able to click on a corner and say, if I do want to have a graphic, a still image appear, I can put it up in the corner. So I'm going to reach back into Cinema Time Grand Prix with James Garner, the original Steve McQueen, Thomas Crown Affair, where they had video segment, video segment, video segment, video segment, all playing at the same time. Yeah, you can do that too if you really wanted to. How? Each video or still maintains a presence on one of these tracks. I could put that video on track number 3 or track number 4, and it'll still do the same thing. But if I wanted to stack up a still on this area and then go to the footage, I can do that too. So the cropping is a little bit more about the aspect of, I need to kind of pre-trim my footage before I bring it into the environment. So it wants to crop or scale to the scale that it is in proportion. Because you're seeing my options here, it's not going to give me that aspect of how can I override and kind of slide across. So from that standpoint, you might need to, once you get that image in and realize, maybe I only want half of the image and not this extra space on the right-hand side, you might want to just trim that out inside Photoshop or even Express and then bring it right back into the project. But it doesn't have that crop aspect because it's really talking about basic transformation, positioning, vertical, horizontal, rotation, and scale. This is very much Premiere but Premiere with the survival aspects of what do people need to do in order to make a compelling piece of video footage. Multi-track audio, video, bringing in images, bringing in graphics like that motion graphic template, but maybe not so much on that crop. Anyway, it's getting in the way. I'm going to delete it, but do be aware that it is something that can be done. You can always click on something and say, don't need it right now. Let me get rid of it. But very easy to add footage. How do we do that? We click on that add media icon and then choose where we want to go find our footage. So let's take a little bit more about the interface. I'm going to just close out this window to get me back to bigger screen real estate. And we're telling a narrative here about, we have some folks look like social media influencers, and they're happy to be on the beach, and a boat took them. Now, for whatever reason, Rush is not showing me where the playhead is, which it precisely should be doing. Let me continue on with this anyway. Where I was going with this is, I want to be introduced to my characters, show the boat, and then show the beach that the boat took them to. It's a fancy way of saying, I don't have to keep things in the same order that I brought them in initially. I can click on a footage and drag it. And now everything shifts. So I start with the introduction of the characters. I then shift to the boat footage. And look at that, we've landed on the beach. The boat actually took me to a place. So simple narrative. Don't worry about this track moving. I can always click and hold and drag it over as well. In fact, you're probably saying, well, that piece of audio footage is really taking up a lot of space. How do I make it shorter? Well, it's continuing off screen, isn't it? Because right now, this is like 1 second, 2 second, 8 second, 16 second, 24 second. It's clearly longer than that. It's this bottom slider at the base of my interface that allows me to shrink or expand or zoom in and zoom out of my timeline. So I'm just going to zoom out so I could see that long piece of footage. And how do I make something shorter? This will work for video. It'll equally work for audio. Because I have this item chosen, it has those heavy gold bars on it. And to make something be more narrow, I park my mouse on that heavy gold bar. I get that red arrowhead. Click and hold, drag. And then it snaps to land on that clip. Now I could keep going to put it where I want it to be. So I really want it to end there. But I like the snap because it at least says we're thinking in terms of clips as boundaries. I can zoom in and then still say, well, maybe I want it a little bit longer here too. But that's why I'm a big fan of that snap. It at least gets me through the hard part. Because remember, this was designed as a mobile app first, as in, it's very hard to drag with a mouse with precision, but it's easy to drag with a finger and snap to a boundary. So I think that's why the snapping is pretty much always on. In this case, we're going to just click it and snap it right back. So easy to move clips. Just click and hold and drag them. How do I know something's selected? Well, it's got those heavy gold bars. How do I make a piece of video smaller? Well, I just click and hold on it and I drag it. And it's showing me the time count at the center of the clip that says I've now dragged 17 frames, 20 frames, a minute and 13, a second and 13 frames, because this is thinking in terms of 30 frames a second, because it's not true film, 24 frames per second. And if I roll my footage, and hopefully this will come through, we will hear both audio and video.
Good morning, Philippines.
Guess what we're gonna go to again? Stork off!
Oh God, I love the Philippines.
So hopefully that audio came through on the Zoom. It felt like the background music was fighting the spoken word. Because if you look at the waveforms, they're both occupying. Yeah, it is a nice place to go. Very white sandy beach, isn't it? The waveforms are about the same height, aren't they? Which means they're both kind of fighting it out for who's going to get listened to. There's some really great audio features that you can use to say the dialogue of the actors takes precedence over a audio soundtrack that is occupying another clip. Now, the example I'm going to show you is the audio soundtrack needs to be its own separate and distinct file, as opposed to a piece of audio where the actors are speaking that also includes heavy background music. Maybe they're in an environment where they were blaring out speaker music from the resort, different animal, because the audio dialogue from the actors plus the ambient noise lives on one track. What I'm showing you is if you have the actor speaking and you have a separate audio file of background music. If you wish to do more with your audio that was part of your capture, you might need to jump into another application like Adobe Audition, which you should still have access to, but a whole other animal, whole other set of expertise where you can use different things inside that application to drop down pops and hisses and things like that. But let's at least see what we can do inside Premiere Rush, because we're trying to make the actor's dialogue take precedent, excuse me. So I'm going to click on this file and I'm going to come over to my waveform icon, audio icon. And you can see here, it gives me some different options where if I wanted to, I could increase the volume of that clip. But remember, we don't want a boxing match. We want to have one take hierarchy over the other. So I could use things like auto audio. Balanced sound is about as close as you're going to get inside Rush to removing hisses and pops. If you have more of that kind of present in your audio, it might need to throw another application, but I found balanced sound can be effective. Even more effective is reducing background noise, because let me back up again. I'm going to play this footage and I'm going to mute. How do I mute something? I just turn the speaker off on the track that holds the audio. So how do I know it's muted? Because it's gray. I'm going to play this footage again. Now listen to the background when the actors are speaking.
Good morning, Philippines.
Guess what we're gonna go do again?
You hear that high hiss? To get rid of that, I'm going to click on the clip. I'm going to choose reduce background noise. So it automatically looks at this clip to say, well, what doesn't really sound like a speaking voice? I'm going to try to mute that. You can change the intensity slider here, but I'm going to leave it at 50% and I'm going to replay the clip. That hiss should be reduced.
Good morning, Philippines.
Guess what we're gonna go do again?
You hear how clean that is? Again, it's a little bit hard to convey over Rush, but that's why I like this. You could play with these exact same files when you start your new project in Rush and you go to sample media. So you can say, oh, okay, that's what he did. Ah, I hear it now. Might not come across Rush as clean as I'd like. But reducing background noise is step number one. Make sure your actors are not fighting their environment. In fact, I'm going to do this to the other clip where they're speaking. They're on a beach. I'm going to say reduce background noise there too, to kind of cut down on that ambient sound. Now, the boat ride. There's nothing interesting about a marine diesel buzzing and chugging along. It's a very unpleasant sound. So how do I separate audio from video on one piece of footage? Right now I'm using a unified clip, audio and video, one clip. But I want to yank this audio footage out, or at least tell Rush, I'm not interested. Can we turn it off? Now, I can't mute it because it's part of the clip, but here's what you do. I'm going to right click on that clip. Come on, Rush, give me the right click. There we go. Okay, simple right click. If this was on the phone, it would be a long press because there's no right click on a mobile device. See this aspect called separate audio? I can choose that. And now look what happened. Boat view got kicked to its own track. It is gray immediately underneath the footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute, or I can even hit delete. Say, I don't want that. But here's the best part. It didn't physically rip those two elements apart. So if for whatever reason I wish to bring that audio back, I can right click again by choosing the clip, right click, and say separate audio, and that will bring it back as a piece of footage. So it never really deletes the audio. It just says, okay, I know you don't want it. Let me fling it onto a new track, and then you can do what you want with it. In my case, yeah, I'm really not interested in it. So let me roll this footage from about here and play.
Stork off! Yay!
Ah, blessed silence. Nobody likes the marine diesel chugging along. And then
Oh God, I love the Philippines.
cuts back into our speakers or our actors. Fantastic. So 2 tricks there. We know we can reduce background noise on any clip. And if I want to separate audio from video, just plain old right click and you choose separate audio. I'm going to turn the audio back on because I had that off previously. And I'm going to rewind again. Now give it a listen.
Stork off!
Okay, so our audio is a little more clean, but it's still fighting with the background track. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to click on the background track. And I still have the audio icon chosen. I haven't really selected off of it. We don't get as many options for background footage because it knows it's not part of the speaker. It doesn't have any kind of cleanup, but it's the feature called Auto Duck. If you don't have advanced, all you have to do is just pop it down. That's all I'm doing. Open, close. You could reduce the volume, but again, that's not the same thing as telling Rush, detect where the actors are speaking, and I want you to self-reduce the volume. And that's what auto ducking does. I'm going to click it. Now, if you look closely at your footage, it might be hard to see on this screen. You notice how some of it's more gray than the others? The grayness kind of ends when I enter into a region that has no soundtrack, right? Because remember, I removed that marine diesel. So let me back it up again and just give a listen.
Stork off! Yay!
Very cool because it can anticipate when the actors begin to speak. And that's why you're getting these ramps. This ramp from about 6.5 seconds clear through to about 8 seconds that says, okay, it looks like there's no audio in the video clip above. I'm going to elevate the background track automatically, hence the word auto duck. Duck as in to lower. And auto duck means I'm going to automatically raise and lower my audio file. This is an outstanding aspect of this particular application where it still gives you the flexibility of having, I do want to have these actors speaking, but I still want to have my soundtrack present in the background, but I want it to be background where it's not fighting me. Great feature, auto duck. How did I get there? You click the audio on the audio track and you choose auto duck. Can this? It is a great feature. Now, we haven't done much to kind of clean up this particular footage. We just brought it in raw. And if you look on the left-hand side, I'm going to zoom in and just roll backwards. You notice how we don't really get any audio of the actor speaking till about 11 seconds? Oh, 11 frames, not 11 seconds. Wow, terrible video if it didn't speak to 11 seconds. How do I make this video piece smaller? You click on it, you put your mouse on that gold bar, and I'm going to use the snapping feature again. I'm going to park my mouse where I want the clip to start, that blue line. And then when I click and hold and drag, snaps. And then you let go of the mouse. I now have a new starting point. So when I tap this,
Good morning, Philippines.
actor starts right with the greeting. I can do this with the boat ride as well too. I don't have to have the boat ride be so long. Boat ride is just kind of this mechanical device that says scene transition change. So I could shrink it. No problem there. Make it smaller. As well as taking this audio file to say, well, let me make that smaller as well because I just moved the video. So I have the actor speaking and then, all right, there's enough of an establishment to say we're taking a cool ride and boom, we land on the island, on the another beach. But look at this gap here. There's a gap of non-audio or no audio with our actors when they start. So again, I might need to trim that just a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Click on the footage. park my mouse where I want the clip to start, and then click and hold and drag, and have my new starting point. I can do that on the back end too. Put my mouse with this time slider and say I want this to end right about here. Click and hold and drag. Now don't worry about that audio clip, it's separated. No problem there. You can grab it, it snaps into place, and then I can take this and snap it too. And it still does the auto ducking according to when the actors are and are not speaking. Let me zoom out again. So we have established they're doing something fun. Here's their mechanism to take them to fun, and now they're in the fun zone. So editing footage is really easy. You just get the media button and you go get more media to add it. And that's exactly what I was going to shift to, Dr. Brown. Thank you for the leading question, because now we want to tell people where they are. How do we add titles? Now that is either from the graphics icon right here, or by clicking on the graphics icon on the far right side. Either way, we'll do the same thing. So I'm going to click on that. Oh, let me do it again. There we go. Add graphics. I'm going to click this button top right-hand side. On the left, it shows me all these come with the application motion graphic templates. Some people call them MOGARTs for motion graphic templates. You can call it titles. We're all talking the same thing. Text that will come with an alpha channel already present. If you don't know what alpha channel is, that's just a fancy way of saying transparent. So that will allow the text to appear without worrying about a background. So I can click through the titles and I can choose more and I can scroll through this list. So I could kind of flip through here to say, well, which one kind of speaks to me? I'm just going to go with the first one because it's here. I'm going to choose that. You click, you hold, you drag, and you drop. I'm going to drop it on the track above the video. Why above the video? Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? The titles are above the video. And notice how it doesn't show me any of that blackness that it shows on the side here. It knows it's got an alpha channel, meaning knock out the background and just show the text. It is animated. So those yellow lines come into being when my presence, my title, appears on the slide. They're probably saying, well, okay, it kind of jams out kind of far. Well, we can choose a couple different things to change that. I'm going to scroll to the right and just reduce the amount of time the title's on screen. So this is roughly about 5 seconds. And when I choose it, I get to make changes to things like, well, what font do you want to use? Can I use Adobe fonts with this? Absolutely. Can I use Times New Roman or whatever is installed on my hard drive? Yes, absolutely. I'm just going with Montserrat because that is what came with the motion graphic template. Do you have to stick with it? No, absolutely not. Text color variable. You can pick what color that text is when it appears on the screen. I'm going to leave it at white, but realize that it can be whatever color you want it to be just by choosing. And now my text is red, but I'm going to take it back to white for easier reading. Do I want it to have an outline? I can do that too. Do I want it to have a shadow or drop shadow? Yes, I can do that as well. So as I say, less is more. I kind of like to keep it clean. In terms of a subtitle aspect, that would be something you would see inside Premiere Pro itself. It has a wonderful capability of studying the audio dialogue, extracting text, and then putting into a screen actual viable subtitles. Beg your pardon, I had a little pause there, but that would be more of a Premiere Pro thing, doing subtitles. And of course, the side dashes don't have to be yellow as well, too. So I can make that dash be a different color as well. All you have to do is click the pop down to see more information about it. But first name, last name, not doing it for me. I double click on this element to say, welcome to the beach. So now when I play the footage,
Guess what we're gonna go do again? Snorkel!
Now I could time it to do the word snorkel as she's speaking it. This is about where she starts her snorkel expression. So maybe this will now be come on, welcome to the beach. There you go. Snorkel. And now roll footage.
Snorkel! Yay!
There. Simple accent. But remember, I just chose the top one. All you have to do to try these is scroll through the list. Titles was the first one. We have transition graphics, where if you want to have kind of traditional push or circular wipe. Again, I come from the world of less is more. People are interested in your narrative, hopefully more than what it kind of uses gilding, so to speak, to enforce your narrative. Either way, that's an opinion, but I'm more of a less is more kind of guy. It keeps people focused on what you got them to this whole video in the first place. Look at your vision. So titles, very easy to bring in. What did I not do? No coding, no After Effects work, no Premiere work. I use what is present inside my environment that comes with the application. Titles, no brainer. So we looked at editing. We looked at titles. We talked about audio. We talked about audio transitions. But now I want to talk about how can I do simple things like fade up or fade out or transition between clips, because I don't need a little bit more time for comments as well too, as well as how I can render. If I wish to have a fade from black, meaning I want to start with black on this particular element and then fade up to our actors, that would again be a effect. And I get a list. Do I want to do a dissolve? Do I want to do black? Do I want to do wipe left? Do I want to do wipe right? Or pan and zoom? Pan and zoom is that Ken Burns effect. If I have a still image, I can click that still image and I can move that still image and zoom in as I move it. In this case, I want to do a simple fade from black. I'm going to click it. Notice how it adds it as a gray area on top of the clip. I'm going to zoom in. Maybe I want this to be a longer than 15 frame. I click on that dissolve, and then you know what the gold bars mean. Oh, I'm draggable. Now that is a 1 second fade from black. Also notice too at the bottom, there is no traditional click audio, fade audio feature. If you want your audio to fade, you need to click the audio in question, whether it's the actor's dialogue or it is the track itself. And you need to put a black transition on. The black is the equivalent to a audio fade. It's not like we're gaming the system, but that's what we're using this particular transition for. So when I click it to say I want this to be a long 2-second introduction of background audio, and maybe a shorter fade from my actors, I can have variable control over, does my spoken word have a longer fade duration than the background audio does? Either way, you will not find a command called fade audio. You need to choose the audio in question, go to your effects panel. In this case, it defaulted to dissolve. Remember how I chose black? It knew what I wanted to do, and it says, oh, you really mean dissolve. But this one, see how it's focusing on black? So it knows dissolve is for audio, and it knows black is for video fade ups. So let's roll footage.
Good morning, Philippines.
Guess what we're gonna go do again?
So you heard the speakers, the narrative, before you saw them, which could be a good thing. It's more of a style thing. But I also want to have a transition between clips. It put in a dissolve. Beg your pardon. It did a fade to black. Well, you know what? I don't want to fade to black. I want to cross dissolve. So I want this particular transition to not be black. I want it to be a dissolve. Now I get that nice transition from actors to footage. And I don't have the dip down and the dip up, as they call it, dip to black in the video world. Can this be longer? Yes. Click, hold, drag to make longer or shorter. And I can do that with the audio as well. Again, this is finessing it. Do you have to take this kind of detail? Not necessarily, but I always find it more interesting that if you have transitions or different types of effects, if you vary the durations,
Good morning,
it
Philippines.
becomes more interesting for
Guess
the
what we're
viewer.
gonna go do again? Snorkel! Yay!
And then we had that jump cut, smash cut, where it had no transition. So you don't have to have transitions between every clip, only the ones that you think are worthy and have value. So again, you pick the clip of interest, you come up to effect, and then you choose what you want it to be. Now, I know there are a couple other things like how do I make things faster or slower? Can I make this boat ride slower? Sure. I click on the boat clip, I click on the speed gauge, and I can change how short it is by making it shorter or how long it is by making it a longer boat ride. Either way, dealer's choice. Making footage smaller, slower, or faster works better when there's no audio, obviously, but water is very forgiving. So if you do want to kind of make your boat ride a little longer, not that hard to tell, is it? And I just need to tighten up this audio track because my footage trimmed. So that's a very good run at how we can add titles, which is clicking the graphic buttons, that's here on the left. How we can add effects to fade things up, fade things out. Color would just be what you expect. I click on that particular clip and say I needs to be more cooler or warmer or cyan or so on. We did speed control and I messed around with audio as well as transform. So we hit all the major features. How do I render this out to say, here's my cool finished completed project. I want everybody to see it. That's the share icon at the very top of the interface. You click that and this is how you render. If you wish, you could render directly to the social media channels. I turn those off because I don't want that to accidentally happen. We just click it on, click it off. That's why it says sign in to publish to YouTube directly. I want it to be local. This is the folder where it's going to get saved to. This is the name of the file. So maybe it's boat ride. I'm going to pop open advanced settings. If I want to change my resolution to say it's either lower quality or I have super high resolution source footage and I want to make it a lower resolution for ease of distribution, I can do that here by changing the resolution. I highly recommend never touching the frame rate, like ever. Just it is what it is. Piece of tape over that black magic marker, don't touch. Audio, not so much a savings of file size, but I'm a big believer in good quality audio. If you're doing just a demo, maybe you knock it back down to mono for a reduction in file size, but again, you can leave it at the stereo as well as high quality if I'm going to be doing a render. If this is a test render, maybe I punch it out at low. We went from 14 megabytes down to 4. So it's all about size of footage, how big is the footage, how are you distributing it out to your individuals, or are you just uploading it to a repository? So at this point, I just say export, and off we go. There's my footage. Now I can say view in Finder. And now Finder should be showing me, there it is, boat ride. Double click it, it generates an MP4. So you can bring in MOV, you can bring in MP4, you can bring in MP3 for audio. I think it'll do WAV as well too. But pretty much things nowadays are being generated either by the export from your mobile device, but MOV, MP4 are safe for video, and then MP3 and WAV are safe for audio. And then roll
Good morning,
footage.
Philippines.
Guess what we're gonna go do again? Snorkel! Yay!
I missed the snorkel, but as long as you get the understand, it wasn't precisely timed, but we know how easy that is to change. Just grab it and drag it on the timeline and trim it up. So from that standpoint, we just did Rush in 45 minutes, maybe. Projects are always saved. Never once did I hit file save in that whole process. So it will now show up as boat ride. I called it Untitled, but I can always click on that rename and call it boat ride. And that lives in my projects. So hopefully Rush was and there's to turn the sync on. Remember I made a big point about saying if you're recording raw footage, don't turn on the sync. But once you get back onto your laptop, if you wish to, you can. It's that triple dot, turn on the sync. And that's how you can turn it on, turn it off. But hopefully this is a tour de force of Rush as a really cool place to get those narratives and have different types of outcomes for projects in future. And so with that, let me stop sharing and I'll turn this over to David.
Eric, that was wonderful. Like, it was so much information. I really, really loved it. So what we'll do for everyone here, remember this is recorded. It'll be posted to our YouTube channel. So feel free to reference this. I will also go ahead and put some resources in the chat box for everyone here. And let me just go over those. Thank you again, Eric.
Sure.
So the first one is the Adobe Creative Cloud sign-in. Remember, I went over that at the very beginning of our webinar today. You can sign in either at that website through Books and Tools on Blackboard or using the Software Center on your UDC-issued computer. Alan also shared a very helpful website about Adobe Premiere Rush tips and tricks. Check that out. If you do have any questions, please email the CAL team. Our email is calhelpdesk@udc.edu. We also have our office hours and our YouTube channel. So this will be posted very shortly on there. Let me go ahead and share this screen. We also have our Cal PD survey, which you can see right there. And last but not least, on the 16th, which is Thursday in 2 days, our colleague Dominique Laws, our instructional designer on the team, is leading a great webinar on learning design, making Blackboard content accessible for all, really thinking about using the Quality Matters rubric and those guidelines in your own courses. So that's on the 16th, which is Thursday from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Also look for another webinar with Adobe next month for Adobe Express and creating with that. So are there any questions that we can answer here? Feel free to unmute or type in the chat box. Hope that we're all leaving very creative focused now, right? Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Robert. But Eric, any final thoughts before we say goodbye today?
I think the best way to start a Rush project is you can even go into Adobe Stock and download video footage with watermarks. Who cares about the watermarks? You're playing, you're getting used to the interface. Go to stock.adobe.com, go to the video section, start pulling down videos, throw it into Rush and get the feel for it. Editing, transitions, audio, video. It's a great way because you don't have to say, I have no footage. Well, you got thousands of footage files. Go check it out. No cost. Go into Stock, pull some video footage.
Excellent. I love that. And for everyone here, remember your students can also access this so they can really create wonderful dynamic content that they can also use for their projects. They can import into Blackboard. So think about that as well. So Eric, thank you again for joining us today. I love seeing your mountain background. I can't wait to go skiing again in the winter.
Oh, yes.
Yes, but for everyone here, thank you again for joining us today. We hope that we can see you for another future Cal PD. Remember, we have that learning design webinar on Thursday at 12:30. We'd love to see you there. And with that, have a great rest of your week and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.